My name is Lebo Mashile, and I am a poet from South Africa. After they've fed off your memories, erased the dreams from your eyes, broken the seams of your sanity, and glued what's left together with lies. After the choices and the voices have left you alone, and the silence grows solid, adhering like flesh to your bones. They've always known your spirit's home lay in your gentle sway to light and substance, but jaded mirrors and false prophets have a way of removing you from yourself. You who lives with many names, you who walks with a million faces, none can eliminate your pain. Tell your story, let it nourish you, sustain you, and claim you. Tell your story, let it feed you, heal you, and release you. Tell your story, let it twist and remix your shattered heart. Tell your story until your past stops tearing your present apart.
Lebo, ¿puedes decirme a qué te refieres cuando dices enseñar lo que ella necesita aprender?
Oh, there's a line in the poem What Kind of a Woman that talks about what kind of a woman knows that what she needs to learn is exactly what she teaches. I think often for those of us who do work that is about sharing messages with people or empowering people, healing, communicating, teaching, those of us who are called to that kind of work, I think often we find that we're not perfect, and the things that we share with others are the very same things that we are working on. And the reason why we are passionate about those things is because we have to learn those things ourselves. And I think that there's an enormous amount of humility in being able to share the journey of understanding and working on your own flaws with people. Just because I have a message doesn't mean that I am perfect. I share my imperfections with others, and hopefully through that others realize that they are not alone.
Because then the beating heart has to be the sound of
Una mujer inolvidable.
An unforgettable woman. A woman who is authentic. A woman who, I think, stands by her word. A woman who treats herself well first. I think the world treats you the same way that you treat yourself. And if you love yourself, then you will find love in the world. But if you don't love yourself, then you can't see and appreciate love in the world. So an unforgettable woman, I think, is one who radiates love for herself and for others.
¿A quién te gustaría parecerte?
Wow. I admire writers and artists and people who take risks, people who are not afraid to say what everyone else is thinking, but are too scared to say. And I think that's many people. Many of our heroes, from Jesus Christ to Mahatma Gandhi, you know, artists like Bob Marley, even writers like Shakespeare. I think that's part of the job of the artist is to say what people are too scared to say, and to give people permission to say it.
Una imagen de tu infancia.
An image that I have of my childhood, arriving in America for the very first time. I was born in America, but my parents were studying. They were South African students, and they were in exile in the U.S. And I remember they sent me back to South Africa to stay with my grandparents while my mother was finishing with her university studies. And I remember going back to America to join my parents. And I remember seeing snow for the very first time, and seeing white people for the very first time. And I remember thinking, oh, these white people must come out of the snow. That's why they look like this. And I remember not being able to speak English. I remember English felt like it was another world, you know? And I used to pretend to speak English. I'd make up my own sounds. I remember feeling so outside of the society. And it was amazing to me that eventually that society became home, you know? And I think that that's been part of my experience everywhere that I've gone, you know? It's kind of feeling like an outsider and an insider. It's a curse and it's also a big, big blessing.
¿Quieres enviarle un mensaje a las mujeres que han sufrido las violencias?
Wow. South Africa is I think, like Colombia, in the sense that it's a very patriarchal society, a lot of machismo, you know. In South Africa, unfortunately, is known for its, one of the things that we are known for is the amount of violence towards women and children. In South Africa, as a woman, you have a better chance of being raped than you do of learning how to read. And in many ways, I feel incredibly privileged to be who I am and to do what I do, because I shouldn't exist. Coming from the society that I come from, someone like me should not exist. And I think that kind of possibility exists for all of us. I live a life that my mother could never live, that my grandmother could never live, that my great-grandmother could never live. And I'm vigilant about the fact that my son will live a better life than the life that I live. My son will be a better man than the men in my society. It is possible. It is possible to transform your own life. And by transforming your own life, to help others to transform their lives. But it's not easy. And often when you are a pioneer in your society, when you are doing things that other people are too afraid to do, even when they're good things, especially when they're good things, you experience an enormous amount of alienation from your community. I know women who have gotten out of abusive relationships only to find themselves being alienated by their friends, by their family, by their extended family. I know women who have gotten out of marriages, dysfunctional marriages, only to find themselves being alienated by their communities. It's not easy to take a stand for yourself, but the value of taking a stand for yourself is measured tomorrow. It's measured in the future. It's measured at a point where you can look back and be able to say, when everyone was against me, I was able to do what I needed to do for myself, and because of that, I have a better life now. So if you are taking a stand for yourself and you are experiencing alienation, you are experiencing the scorn and the wrath and the criticism of your community, know that you are still doing the right thing right now, even if other people are telling you that you're wrong. If you are choosing to get out of a situation that is violent, that is abusive, and others are telling you that you're making the wrong choice, know that you're making the right choice, and eventually you'll be vindicated.
¿Qué te conmueve?
Honesty moves me, sincerity moves me, people who seek justice move me, humility moves me, traveling through the world and seeing places that feel like home, that remind me of home, that moves me very much. Since I've been in Colombia, I've been looking at the similarities and talking to a lot of people about the similarities between South Africa and Colombia. Political corruption, immense wealth in the hands of few people, land is a major issue, resources are major issues, and because of that, violence, crime, all these other issues and social dysfunctions come out of that. I'm moved by the ways in which so much of the pain and the suffering that we experience in Latin America and in Africa is because of the very same things that make us so wonderful. It's because of the beauty and the richness of what we have. That's the very same reason why we turn on ourselves. That's the very same reason why we fight with each other. That's the very same reason why people want to steal what we have. That moves me. I think I think we're sitting at a point in history where we have an opportunity to talk about these things, and we have platforms to talk about these things, and hopefully that means that we have an opportunity to change these things. And I'm touched by people who do the work of trying to change these kinds of realities, whether it's artists or social activists or leaders who have integrity, because they're far and few these days. But people who do their work with love, people who do their work with humility, people who feel afraid but still do it anyway, still do what they're afraid to do anyway, who have courage, that moves me.
¿Qué puedes decir del feminismo?
I think so many people are afraid of feminism because they think that feminists are against men, and they think that feminists want to either remove men from the world or to take over men's power, and this is not true. Men can also be feminists. Being a feminist, I think, comes down to respecting women and loving women and believing in equality. If you respect women and you love women and you believe in equality, then that makes you a feminist. And that, to me, is about wanting love and wanting justice in the world. So ultimately, the message that we have as feminists, the work that we do, it's about love, it's about support, it's about community, it's about creating a better future for our children, creating a world that is also safer for our boy children. I have a son, and I don't want my son to believe that he has to be macho in order to be a man, or that he has to participate in violence in order to be a man, or that he has to have power over anybody else in order to be a man. I want him to understand that he has power in himself as a human being, and that a woman's power doesn't take away any power from him too. So maybe it's also good for us as women, as feminists, to work on how we bring men and our boys into the conversation, because they are a part of this world. We need each other. We live together. We love each other. We need each other.